In the summer of 1986, in the capital city of Austin, Texas, a group of intrepid filmmakers gathered to produce the first ever sequel to a venerated horror classic. The movie was released later that same year to middling box office and critical apathy. For many, it seemed, there was a desire to pretend that the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 never happened. But over the last 30 years, over and over again, there were signs that the movie's reputation was improving. Revival screenings were held across the country. Numerous DVD and Blu-ray releases were unleashed around the world. Fans even began seeking out some of the original filming locations, only to discover that many of them were either no longer in existence or remained frustratingly elusive. Recently, one of the film's most devoted followers traveled back to Austin to finally document the various shooting sites of the film and to solve the many mysteries that have long plagued so many who came before him. For this tortured soul, the quest to revisit the making of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 has not stopped. It haunts him. It seems to have no end. Actually, this piece only lasts about 25 minutes, so there is, quite literally, an end to all this. Just FYI.
Hi, I'm Sean Clark. Today I'm standing in front of the Cut-Rite chainsaw store from a Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2. Welcome to Horror's Hallowed Grounds.
1, 2, 3, 4! I care what you say about your own time. It's not my problem. You can take me to fucking thing to me. Take your reasons and drive all night. All right. Never cared what you said, kept dumb and blind. Money and your attitude, I've got some of your gratitude. And yeah, you're not my problem. I've got my problems. Go away, go away.
Shame. Shame, shame.
Shame on you. You haven't got a dime. Shame on you. Too much fun.
I'm now standing alongside Old Farm Road 969. This is where the chicken scene took place between the Yuppies and the Sawyer family, and we know that didn't end so well for the Yuppies. This was shot from various directions, looking that way, looking that way. The signs behind me are visible in the film from one of the angles. They also came from down there, coming down the hill several times in the shot.
Let's play a little chicken with the farmer here. Come on, baby. Come on, come on.
But you know, some people might say this is a road to nowhere.
No, baby, we're on the road to Texas OU weekend in Dallas. You're on the road to nowhere.
Right here is where we first meet Lefty and Right. This is the famous car crash scene, just off the Montopolis exit off the 183 highway. Not an easy area to get to, mind you. He's coming down this way, does that quite a bit. Then he heads over here where he finds the car door. Sits here, checks it out, moves something out of the way, and finds the glasses worn by the Yuppie. As he sits here pondering, we look back, we can see the bridge behind him. Now you might notice the bridge behind me is the bridge we assume that they had their accident off of. Quite honestly, it really doesn't make a lot of sense. I mean, look how far away the bridge is. If they crashed off the bridge, it's way back there. And that's not the bridge that the incident took place on, where Leatherface is sawing through the Mercedes. That's a completely different bridge.
The fuck?
The real bridge where all the action happens is about 20 miles from here, and we're gonna go check that out right now.
Zeus.
Zeus.
the Alamo, cowboy. I'm now in Bastrop, Texas at the old 150 West Bridge. This is the iconic bridge in the film where the yuppies met their demise by the hands of Leatherface. I know what you're saying. You're looking at this saying, Sean, this can't be the bridge. This bridge is not nearly long enough. The one in the movie's like 10 miles long. They just keep going and going and going. This is the bridge. Movie magic, clever editing. There you have it. You know, thinking back, if those guys would have just hit their brakes, you know, maybe they'd still be around. But, you know, what can you do? That was then, this is now.
What the hell is that? Look, there's some
Another interesting thing about this location is that Bill Johnson and Bob Elmore, who shared most of the screen time as Leatherface, did not portray the iconic killer in this particular scene. In this scene, it was portrayed by veteran stuntman Tom Morga, who played Jason Voorhees in Friday the 13th Part 5 and Michael Myers in Halloween Part 4. I mean, this guy's played 3 iconic killers. That's pretty impressive in my book. But you know what? That's what happens when you call these guys pig fuckers.
Back up, pig fucker!
They don't like it, and they take it kind of personal, so shit's gonna go down. I'm now standing in a parking lot near the corner of 4th and Guadalupe, right across the street from the William P. Hobby Jr. building. This parking lot used to be the location of the American Statesman printing facility. There's been a lot of debate about where this location was, and everything online shows it was at 7th Street, but that's where the reporters worked. They had 2 buildings. This building is where the printing facility was, and this is where they built all the interior sets for Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2. The inside of the radio station, the Sawyer's lair, the hotel room and hallway that Lefty's staying at. This was all right here. Take a look. This big empty space, this was it. Chainsaw history. Right here.
Now this is very hard to believe.
So by far the hardest location to track down was the exterior of the radio station. Now, this is what we've narrowed down. If you look over Caroline Williams' shoulder in the background behind the building, you will see that Hyatt behind me. Now, we're standing in front of the Austin City Hall. This is the only vantage point where you can get a clear shot of this building. If you were to also look in this direction, when she's talking to Lefty, you see a building being built over her shoulder this way. That building is just down the street, not visible from our vantage point at all. But where the location of the radio station was just over here, and we're gonna go over there now. Right now I'm standing at the corner of Guadalupe and 2nd, and see this very unexciting building behind me? That is the lot where the radio station once stood. They shot it looking in this direction, where you could have seen the Hyatt over there, and that other building built over there. And it's only about a block from where the sets were built, but that's it. What more can I say? Not that exciting, but you know what? We're gonna call Caroline Williams and verify all this. I sent her screen captures of everything. She's excited to talk to us. Let's do it.
Hey, dude.
Hey, what's up?
Oh my God. I could not believe.
Did you get the screen captures I sent you?
Yeah. On the one hand, the city itself, the profile of the city has changed so much. But there are just certain angles and aspects of things that absolutely brought everything rushing back for me. And it also reminded me of last summer when I was with Bill Moseley and the family. And we were walking by that park right by where City Hall is, orienting ourselves to where were we? What did we do? Where did we walk? Where was this place? Because there was like a little artist colony close by where I bought jewelry, and I had some plates made, and you know, it just all that came rushing back for me.
Thank you so much for doing this with us. Appreciate it.
Have a great trip. Enjoy yourself, and I cannot wait to see this episode of Horror's Hallowed Grounds.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
When Lefty first pulls up at the Cut-Rite chainsaw store, you might notice through his car window, you'll see this area behind me. See the railroad tracks, the telephone pole, and the building in the background, which is actually Austin High School. You might notice the kids marching along the railroad tracks look like a band rehearsing. And this is right next to the actual chainsaw store, which is over here. Right now, we're out in front of the Cut-Rite chainsaw store, which is actually the Mean-Eyed Cat bar, and ironically, Stubbs Barbecue. Who would have thought, right? The place that he goes to get his ammunition to go up against the Sawyer family, famous for barbecue, would now be a barbecue place? Full circle, that's all I gotta say. You might notice that the building looks a little bit different, a little bit bigger, because it actually stopped right here. All this is an addition that's been added later. You can see how the building ended right there, and you know, made more space for seating and whatnot inside. Speaking of which, let's go in there and take a look at the place. I wonder if they let you saw your own barbecue. I don't know, I'm excited to find out. Now we're inside the Cut-Rite chainsaw store. Right over here was the manager's office. It was right back here where he was on the phone when Lefty entered the building. The coolest thing about this location is if you look right up here on the wall, they have the original Cut-Rite chainsaw sign on display for fans to check out whenever you come to Austin. Now back here, this is the room with all the chainsaws. This is where Lefty came in and started trying things out and seeing what he thought, if it felt right or not, you know. And you might notice this looks a lot bigger. All this back here from here on is an addition that wasn't there in the film. This was a wall before. Now, if you're ever in Austin, I suggest you come to the Mean-Eyed Cat because they got tasty grub, tasty brew, and they also have a chainsaw for those that get out of line.
Get them suckers a time or two.
After Lefty chooses his weapons of choice, he comes out here to the giant log that's sitting in this area right about here. An old boy inside tells him, give that sucker a time or two. So that's what he does. And he does one of these. Now out back by the patio of the Mean-Eyed Cat, you might notice this very kind of unassuming log just sitting back here in the back. Well, it's a piece of Chainsaw 2 cinematic history right here. This is featured right by the front door of the Cut-Rite chainsaw store. The manager's standing next to it and Lefty's going to town on the log out front. I mean, hey, there really isn't very many actual locations left for the film. I mean, I know it's just a log, but it's almost all we got. Screw this log!
Damn it, Lefty.
I'm now standing at West Cesar Chavez. This is the road where Stretch follows the Sawyer family in the truck. She comes from this direction, passes by this little bridge over here, and by this sign, which is one of the few markers you can see on the road. In the distance over here, you can see the city buildings, not as built up as it is today, but you can still see some of them as they looked 30 years ago. Down here is a bridge that she passes just before she comes on this stretch of road. Get that stretch on the stretch of road. Zinger! Anyway, let's go take a look at that. Follow those guys. Just down West Cesar Chavez is the Lamar Boulevard Bridge. Stretch comes under this bridge, heading in this direction back towards where we just were. This is briefly seen out the back window of her car. You might notice the yellow sign and the markers on the bridge there. That's the only thing to kind of distinguish that this is the location. I know it's not much, it's just a bridge, but hey, look what we're working with here. It's been 30 years, they're tearing shit down. What can I do? I'm now at the Prairie Dell Amusement Park. This was also known as Texas Battleland in Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2. This was the entrance where the truck drives in and Stretch follows them in the Jeep. What you might notice is two very large pillars on each side. You can see the foundation right here for those round pillars, and one right over here as well. So they drive in here, and immediately the structure begins just over here. Obviously, it's gone. It's been gone a long time. It pretty much was torn down right after filming. The amusement park only lasted about a year back in the day and just sat kind of defunct. And they came across it and said, you know, this is a great set piece. We're getting all kinds of production value for no money. So it would have been along here that the Matterhorn was built. And the production designer put up those statues you see that are standing out in front. Now, when Stretch follows him in, she parks around this area here. You might see some other structures in the shot. Now, you can see some concrete slabs over here. These would have been some of the structures she was hiding behind as she watched the truck drive along the road up here. Let's go take a look. So right here are some of the structures that Stretch passes by. She's ducking behind and whatnot, watching the truck head off in this direction. You can see these foundations here, some more of them here, over in this area. Now you might remember those big sort of, I don't know, domey sort of rib-looking things that are lining along the side of the road. Those would have started just up here as the road's starting to curve. Those would have been off to the right-hand side. So those ribs would have ran along the road here, the little road that they drove down. And you might have noticed there was this sort of like a manufactured structure off to the side. Now that would have been over here. You can see there's concrete on the ground from where this was laid. So this would have been the base of the inside of that structure, that big dome structure. And then the ribs would have just followed around down the road that way. I don't know if you don't really get a full sense of what they do or what direction they go into. If it was a big circle, I never got to see it, so I won't know for sure. But it was definitely out here somewhere. Michael Felcher said when he visited this place back in like 2007 that he could still see the holes in the ground when it was an active RV park. They were probably maintaining the grounds a lot better. So, you know, there was some remnants of that. It probably is here, just it's underneath all this, and I'm not that curious. So, but, you know, over here, this is the actual Prairie Dell Lake. This was part of the amusement park. This was the big attraction, other than the Matterhorn, was this lake over here. You don't ever see this in the film, but this was a big part of the amusement park, which is now going to be completely leveled and turned into what is supposed to be one of the world's biggest truck stops. That's what the owners have planned for this property. So this might be your last chance to actually see something that looked kind of like it did in the film. But unfortunately, it's mostly history. But at least there's enough clues here on the ground, the road, you know, the concrete bases, that you can get a sense of where everything was and still feel kind of awesome while you're here, you know? There's a lot of bizarre shit out here. I mean, there is a swimming pool that appears to have somehow come out of the ground somehow. I mean, I don't think it was built this way. It does not look like it's supposed to be built like this. His wheels looks like, oh, okay, this is a big screen TV. That's what this used to be. Here's the buttons, here's the speakers. Those are the lights. It was one of those projection kind, you know, those are the lights for the screen. This is one of those old school, oh, man, this is a big ass one. Yeah, so this is where the movie ends, folks. Where movies go to die. Right here, Prairiedale Amusement Park. Yeah, that's kind of odd, right? Like, who just wheels out a big screen TV and just drops it there? Somebody did. I'm standing at what I believe would have been the peak of the Matterhorn. At the end of the film, Chop Top chases Stretch up the back of the Matterhorn. And you might remember there was a little alcove. That alcove was to the side of the Matterhorn, would have been facing in that direction. Now, in the full frame version of this film, you can see the road behind Stretch at the end when she's dancing with the chainsaw. When it pulls back, you can see that road, which verifies the direction. So anyway, our trip has come to an end. I am stoked to have been able to come to all these cool locations. Even though a lot of them are gone, this was still awesome to see. The bridge was amazing. Going to the Cut-Rite chainsaw store was awesome. And here, Texas Battleland, this is kind of Sawyer family mecca right here, you know? And as far as the trip's concerned, I gotta go because it's Texas OU weekend in Dallas, and you know, that is the biggest party of the world. Hook 'em horns, baby. Now we're out in front of the Cut-Rite chainsaw store, which today is the Mean-Eyed Cat. I was gonna say Cat and Bar. God damn it. Now we're out in front of the Cut-Rite chainsaw store, which is today, fuck me. He whips out his trusty, oh yeah, that wasn't supposed to happen. This seems very vaginal to me for some reason. This is kind of wrong. I'm gonna stop. It's Frogger, for real.
Oh my God!
Right behind me though is someone riding a bike, ringing a bell, being a geek. The one on 7th Street is where the is. All right, let's do it again. I think we're on the road to nowhere, but you cows, you on the road to nowhere. Hook 'em horns, baby. Hook 'em horns. Bubba likes to keep stuff in the cooler. Yeah, that's where he keeps it right there. Yeah, keeps it fresh, yeah. This is the famous bridge scene where the yuppies get their, you know. Let's do that again. Where the yuppies are same as it ever was. Anyway. I'm in Bastrop, Texas right now, in the old 150 West bridge. I'm now standing on the old 150 West Bastrop Bridge. Mad props to TM, Tom Morgan, know what I'm saying? I don't know where I was going with that. So I hope you enjoyed this episode of Horror's Hallowed Grounds. I know that there weren't that many, and I didn't get naked, and you know, and I usually pull it out, and I didn't this time, and I'm sorry. Speaking of trips, I'm about to go to Texas. I'm in Texas. I'm out of here. Oh, and by the way, bright lights, big titties.